This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Majestic lion. Absolutely no better way to start the day than this majestic animal in the sunrise. This is Africa. This is how it's meant to be. I can't believe it. I'm so happy to have seen this thing. Can't wait to see what else happens today live on this African safari. The male lion is enjoying these morning rays after what was a bit of a drizzly, dark night. But oh man, what a beauty. This is the most gorgeous lion you've ever seen. Look at that thick, luscious locks as he scans the open clearings here at Impala Plains, wondering what's next for his day. I suspect he's probably just going to sit here until it gets too warm. Once it gets warm, he's probably going to move into the shade somewhere, hopefully further in. Hi everyone, my name's Mike, behind the camera is BK, and you've joined us at Ecotraining's Pridelands Conservancy, where this male lion is sitting not so far from our northern boundary. He's looking sort of towards the east, and I'm hoping he's going to move that way, deeper into Pridelands, where we're going to hopefully get a chance to spend a lot of time with him. It's not often that we get to see these male lions. They come in and out during the night, and they scent mark their territory, but because of all the hyena activity, they usually don't stick around too long. Hopefully. He came onto the Pridelands yesterday. Oh, that's right. Oh. Just luxuriant, isn't he? So it's going to get warm quickly today. It's going to be an incredibly hot day, 40 degrees. This lion is only going to be here for a short time. He came onto Pridelands yesterday, seen by the students in the evening, and then was not found at all the whole day yesterday. We saw tracks going into the property, but we didn't know where he was. And this morning, his calls rang out across the savannah, and we knew the hunt is on. We were lucky enough to find him. He's in ultimate relaxation mode. I mean, when you are the king of the beasts, there's absolutely no reason for you to have to be alert or active at this time of day. You can rest easy knowing that he's probably been patrolling the whole night. He looks like a very strong male lion, which means he's probably one of the territorial males. He might be one of the Masangulo males that we've seen before. But I don't know if it is where his brother would be, or at least his other member of the coalition. But at this time of day now, all the fighting, the battles are done, the patrolling is over. It's time to take some well-earned rest. I often think lions are lazy animals, but that's not the case at all. When you spend your life having to fight over a territory and carve out a kingdom, think it's quite fine for you to have a few hours of rest in the day, maybe even more than a few.
Good morning, and welcome to such a pleasant day here in Djuma Game Reserve. The sun is already up, blue skies, no sign of rain, no sign of clouds, and we're sitting here watching the most adorable scene. Now, if you don't quite know what you're looking at here, it's a nest for the helmet shrikes. I can't actually count how many youngsters are in there, but we just watched a really precious moment of both, well, the adults, two adults, feeding the chicks. It was adorable. My name is Lauren. I do have Kat on camera today, and we're just going to sit here a little bit longer and see if we can see the adults coming back with some food. Now, it's Tswalu that found this nest, and it's remarkably camouflage. These birds have an incredible social structure. Actually, they're cooperative breeders. So the male and females create monogamous pairs, but it's not a lifelong pair. The actual bond is said to only last about 2.5 years, and then they clearly get bored with one another and move on. So I think if we just sit here long enough, adults will come back to feed these hungry chicks. I don't think every single chick got fed last time, but isn't this adorable? Now, all the chicks in this nest will probably not be from the same female, because they are cooperative breeders. Different females can lay in the nest, in this sort of family group that they create. I'm really hoping they come back. Now, they do eat insects, spiders, and summer is a perfect time for that. So that's what they'll be catching, killing in their beak, and breaking down for the little chicks here. Very artificial. I'm not sure if they've even opened their eyes yet. But when an adult arrives, you can just see them opening their mouth and hoping that some delicious snack is going to land. What a great start to a great morning. I'm sure you've been told this already, but please do talk to us. Comments, questions, send them in. Oh, I think adults are around. Adults are around. We just need them to come back with food. It's just the most adorable sighting. And these birds, as adults, they're not large, they're very small, but they're Oh! Look, everyone. Look at that little one on the right, just hoping that something's going to fall in his mouth. Wow. Oh, this is so adorable. And they'll need to keep catching insects and bringing them back to feed all these mouths. And you see the adult with the yellow eye, and it almost looks like it's wearing a helmet. Oh. This was worth waiting for. Maverick, yes, you're right, breakfast time. There's some hungry tummies in there. Just like mine. But yes, breakfast time. Priority is, of course, the chicks. Now, they normally lay anywhere between 2 to 5 eggs. So I really haven't managed to count exactly how many chicks are there. Have you counted? Okay, 3. 3 hungry mouths looking for breakfast. Oh. And believe it or not, their social structure is really not that dissimilar to wild dogs. The chicks grow up, all the female siblings will leave, they call it a cohort, to find a new cohort of males and start a family group. And the males will do the same. There'll be a dominant pair as well, so it's really not that dissimilar. So I think we're just going to sit here a little bit longer and enjoy this moment.
Good morning and welcome to and Beyond Ngala. After last night's rain, we were lucky enough to find this hyena laying right next to a very, very smelly watering hole. I'm Yapi, and behind the camera we have Sebastian. And we thought we'd set out this morning to come and see what the sunlight will bring out this morning. Yesterday was quite a cold day. We had a bit of rain. I'm not sure exactly how much. I didn't check the rain gauge. But after yesterday's rain, there should be quite a few of these little mud puddles around. And I think today, with the expected rise in temperatures later in the day, we should find similar scenes. Just have a look at that. You can see she doesn't pay too much attention to the dragonflies around her face, to the noises nearby. And I can see her mammaries look very swollen, so she looks like she's lactating. It's tough to say if she's got cubs or if she still needs to give birth. I think she still needs to give birth. But more relaxed, I don't think you can find an animal at this stage. And it's already in the mud. And this hyena, on some days, if it is extremely hot, you might find her near a mud puddle like this, where she might actually wallow. At least cover her belly in some mud to cool down. And just have a look at that clear chip out of the ear. You can see the wet feet. She's probably already been in the water, maybe for a drink. And you can see the fur on the belly. Stands in all directions. He was probably laying down on the belly at one point. And maybe turned over to get this very pleasant breeze blowing. At this stage, it might also be that she is a little bit uncomfortable, but near the riverbed as we are, I think it's a good spot to start the morning out.
Jumbo, jumbo, everyone. Another beautiful morning. We are in Masai Mara, the Mara Triangle, East Africa, Kenya. And my first animal of the day, I have the Masai giraffe. Of course, like yesterday, I had the same one, but different location. I'm not complaining. Always nice to see this graceful, beautiful animal. And they're everywhere around here. Jumbo, Isaac here, and on camera I have Bungay. Our mission is to find the Owino cubs. We last saw them somewhere around here, and that's where I'm starting. Apart from that, Cats are welcome, and anything that will be on my way. Remember to talk to us on hashtag Wild Earth. Question and comments are very, very welcome. Also, you can send in your kids' question at kids.wildearthtv. And temperature today in the Mara, 16 degrees Celsius starting, but I think it's going to warm up because there's no single cloud in the direction the sun is rising. Of course, it's east, and looks like it's going to be a wonderful day. I have these animals in this lager here. Looks like they're enjoying their morning browse. But that one is listening to me, looking straight at us. Remember, giraffes are said to see color. So maybe he's trying to differentiate different colors, the lights that we have in the vehicle, the color of the vehicle, us trying to pick up everything. Sometimes they are so inquisitive, they will bend their necks down. It's like to look inside of the vehicle. We still have lots of, pregnant ones, but we haven't seen any baths. We have seen very new borns, but no baths. I'm hoping that, maybe we might get to see a bath or maybe one standing up. They are very busy eating a little shrubbery. It's time of plenty. I think this is a season that they really enjoy eating soft leaves and brushes. Oops. Yeah, that flying there is a greyback shrike. It's in the shrike family. And actually, just to remind you, as Europe is getting into winter, we are expecting our migratory birds to be arriving here in the Mara. Big birds like European storks, redback shrike, those ones we get here, northern white-crowned shrikes. So we're expecting all of those like wheat-ears. We have the Isabelline, the northern, all those they're called wheat-ears. We are expecting them to be here towards end of this month and onwards. They stay until May. So it's nice that I saw that greyback shrike. It reminded me of our migratory birds that arrive here soon. Yes, it looks like here the bushes are quite low, so they're being forced to bend down to have a better reach. I think the shrike is somewhere there. Do you see it, Bungay? Yes, there it is. Is it there? No, yes, I see it. Yeah. It's quite difficult to see it really well, but it's one of the shrikes we get here. You can see the greyback, hence its name, greyback shrike. And looks like it's ready to really dry its wings so that it can have an easier flying. I'm gonna move on. Let's take you to another location.
Good morning to everybody, and what a beautiful sight we have here for you folks. We are just, good morning, my name is Carl, and behind the camera is Big D. Hello. Give us a thumbs up, D. Yes! Good morning. So we've just stopped to appreciate this wonderful scene panning out in front of us. We are slowly making our way to the Makala group, which is another group of cats which have pups at the moment. And we are hoping for a little glimpse of these new individuals and just to welcome them to the family. There's 3 from what I've heard, and they had a very beautiful burrow system called Kotoko, which is just north of that big pan that we visit quite often. Very beautiful. So after the little meerkats, we are going to go to somewhere around the lodge, and hopefully we have a chance, if Mother Nature allows us, to get a glimpse of Cape Fox pups. Now, I'm not getting everybody too excited. I don't want everybody to be jumping off their chairs, but fingers crossed we managed to get a little sighting of these new individuals. They're just south of the lodge, and there's two little pups that are roaming around there with Mom and Dad, and they're just the cutest little things. Dawn chorus in full swing. Everybody getting busy. So as that sunlight reaches over the Cronenberg Range, you'll find that those meerkats will do that daily business of sunbathing. For now, we're going to send you off to another incredible location, and we'll see you at the Mikado Group.
Good morning and Jumbo, welcome to the Masai Mara. We have a lone hippo bull grazing. My name is Tim, and behind camera we have Big James. It's a nice morning, very, very cool. So this hippo grazing here, I think he's just late from going back to the river. You find that in places where it's quiet, not disturbed, hippos can also be found grazing during the day. There's lots of water around here, and I think he's chose just to go and graze, returning back maybe mid-morning. Normally we don't always find hippos grazing during this time, but it's not unusual. You find that when there is adequate food supply, they'll always be out near the water just at a time like this. And most of the times you find that the bulls are the ones that will be late to get back to the water. While grazing like that, he's just plucking grass with his lips. He has a very hard tip of his lips that he chops off the grass and then chew with the molar. The big canine teeth that we always see are mostly used for defense. So they don't use those to chew. So while he's grazing like this, that is how he marks his territory. We have a beautiful African wattle lapwing and a red-throated sparfowl or redneck sparfowl calling. The sparfowl that's calling.
Pizza Capitan, what predators do hippos have to watch for? Hippos have to watch for lions. So their biggest predators are lions. But when they're in the water, the young hippos or the baby hippos, their predator are crocodiles. So out here, if a big lion pride consists of about 7 lions, can take down this hippo. So they always worry whenever they come across lions. So one lion is not a match to him, so he'll not be worried at all. But lions are their main predators. So when there's enough food, hippos don't walk so far from the water. But you find that in times when it's dry, hippos can walk to find food up to 30 kilometers round trip. So thanks to the rain, so these hippos don't walk long distances away from the river. So we have the river which is about 1.5 kilometers away. But then there's a little stream just behind those trees, and I'm sure that is where he's found his permanent home. So I'm going to look for something else. This is where we always find the the river pride. So I might go and find the river pride, and if not, later on I'll go find the owinos, taking you over to another live location.
Good morning and welcome to and beyond Pindo Private Game Reserve. As you can see, we've also been watching some hippos. Seems to be a little bit of a hippo morning. In fact, we've got a lovely watering hole filled with a whole lot of birds that are giving us tremendous show. We've got a crocodile in the background and just some lovely sounds of the bush. My name is Kim, and behind the camera we have Craig, and we will be with you this morning. So we are also looking for lions, the same lionesses that we found yesterday, but we came across this beautiful scene. You can see those 2 younger hippos at the back are busy playing with each other. Amazing how they can open those jaws so wide. Right in front of them you see there's a pied kingfisher that was just fluttering above the water, looking to fish. You know, with these dry seasons, I know Tim was saying about how far the hippo, now we're going into the wet season, but there still certainly isn't a huge amount of water. But I do remember seeing how, especially when it was a lot drier about a month ago maybe, the tracks that you would see of hippos in the most unexpected places so far from water. And luckily, you can see that the grass around here started to grow a bit longer, so these hippo don't have to walk too far anymore. The one young hippo is actually on the back of the other and is busy biting the back of its neck. It's quite sweet to watch. And we've got a huge amount of bird activity at the moment. So you can see we've got a lot of white-faced whistling ducks. Those are the ones that are actually responsible for that sort of whistling sound that you hear every now and then. And you can see that they've got while they are called white-faced whistling ducks, you can see they've got a little bit of white on their heads, but it's also starting to get into this sort of rufous color, which is their breeding plumage. Then if we have a look in between them, you can see there's a yellow-billed stork. That's that bird with the very white body and a very long yellow bill, bit of red around the head. And you see it's walking quite slowly. So now it's just been walking It's actually just trying to find, at first it was trying to find a little spot to go and fish, but now you can see it's opened its bill and its movements is much more slow and much more purposeful. You can see that it's placing its feet really, really carefully. And what it's doing is it's feeling with its feet. It's got very sensitive feet. So it's feeling for movement, and as soon as it gets an idea of where a fish is, snap that bill shut. Now, it's been quite interesting to sit and watch these birds fishing around here, because watch as the fish fly over the water, you can actually see a lot of disturbance. And what's been happening is with the lower watering levels, there's a huge amount of fish that are still in these watering holes. But a lot of them are very close to the surface, especially we've got another watering hole that we see a lot of the fish actually breathing outside of the water, because there's so many of them in such little water that they're actually deoxygenating the water itself. So it's amazing, as when you get a low watering hole like this, you see a whole lot of them fly over, and as they fly over, you just see ripples sort of go across the water, and it's all these fish trying to get away because they're so close to the surface. So these birds have been really successful, and you can see just what the amount of fish and the conditions have done to this watering hole. I mean, you can just see the amount of bird activity is unbelievable. You see just closer to us the other very prominent white bird with the long red legs, and it's just shaking its head around, busy pruning itself. It's got that very long bill with a cup shape at the end. That's the African spoonbill. It's giving itself a lovely prune there. And then if we look directly behind it, there's a brown bird with yellow legs. And that is a water thickney. And just to the right of the water thickney, we've got a spur-winged goose that's walking into the picture. In fact, just before we went live, we saw all of those spur-winged geese fly into the scene. It was quite something to see, all flying over the water, and then the fish trying to swim out the way as quickly as he can. James, thank you for your question. And you know what? Funny enough, we did have some flamingos very recently. One of the rangers called it in, which is always an exciting thing to see. I haven't ever myself seen flamingo on the reserve, but we're starting to get a whole lot of those, different sort of birds. If you were watching the show the other day, you would have seen the hooded vulture that we saw, that I was super excited about. I've since found out that we do see them a handful of times a year, so it wasn't quite as rare as I thought it was, but still very special, classified as a KZN rarity. You can see the hippos are starting to settle down now as well. Oh. And if you see there's two birds flying over the water now. Now watch that. As they're flying over, you just see all those ripples. You can see their long black legs. Oh, sorry, long red legs and black wings. They are black wing stilts. Stuck in bed. You've given me a really good question. I'm just trying to think. The most unique bird to Phinda. We've got a really rare habitat up in the north of our reserve called the sand forest. Now, there's very few sections of sand forest remaining, so there's some birds that you really only find there. So I would say probably our most rare bird is the African broadbill, which is a tiny little bird. It's really beautiful. It lives in the sand forest, and it makes like sort of a it makes its call with its wings. So it's got a mechanical call, and it is really stunning. That or the near-guard sunbird, which also we find in our sand forest. And it's because we get Lobombo wattles in the sand forest, and it feeds on these string cactuses that grow on the Lobombo wattles. So those are two, I would say, of the rarer birds that you would find, and very lucky to find them here. There's nothing quite like waking up early and going into the sand forest for the dawn chorus. I can't even tell you, it's amazing, this forest that grows out of an old sand dune. And there's just this dense canopy of leaves, but like big open areas underneath, because it's all, sea sand. And you just hear all these birds calling all along. It's quite spectacular. You can see that one yellow-billed stork's actually walked right out into the middle there. You can see how shallow this watering hole is. We got a little bit of rain last night, but I think we still are waiting for our big rains of the wet season. And what we're going to do is I'm going to head into that area where they had those lionesses last night. I'm going to see if we can find any tracks or signs of where they would have gone from last night and maybe this morning.
Talking about trying to find some lions, we just saw that hyena pick up a pretty large piece of meat randomly off the ground. And you can see she's stopping, staring in all directions. In the direction that she's looking now, there's another one that went off in that way. Can even hear her calling. I'm saying her, I'm not actually sure. This one might be male or female. But it looks like something has drawn their attention and they are tracking something. Now here on Ngala, what we do find is more often than not when hyenas in this area gets excited like this, they track wild dog. I think let's see if we might get a better view. Now it would be interesting, we haven't seen wild dog on Ngala for a while now, but these hyenas walked straight across this entire area, which is a very, very large clearing, and then suddenly got excited, and now they've turned off onto what looks like a very clear trail that they're following. Now, unfortunately, we've lost view. Oh, no, there they are. And from what I can see, it looks like it's walking up and down, which means that it is a little bit unsure of the trail that it's got. So if we stop over here, we might get a view of it coming through the bush somewhere. It's completely disappeared now. And I don't hear any more calling or any noises. Sometimes if they get excited, then we do hear a little bit of low growling or rumbling if they're following each other. But I think we'll sit here for a little while longer, see if maybe we get another view of them.
Welcome back to the Mara, where we're in search of the River Pride. So we're just driving on the border between the River Pride and the Olololo. So this area is like the buffer zone between the two prides. So to our right is the Mara River, and I've been searching for them around this place. We have very tall grass, so sometimes it becomes impossible to see cats. So they'll move off from one area to another within their pride areas. So always picking the core areas where there is lots of wildlife. But at the moment, because of the long grass, it's become difficult for lions and even hyenas. So they have to move around with prey. You can see two buffaloes here. Old bulls. There's a swamp just behind these bushes. This is where these buffaloes always like spending their time. So just stop here so that we can watch this buffalo. You can see how he's lost his fur on the back, covered with mud, hence the name Mud Boys. I'll still carry on looking for the River Pride.
This male lion, as you see, has put its head up now. There were some baboons alarm calling just beyond our northern boundary. It raised its head and started to look over there. It might be thinking about investigating. Still relatively cool though, so not wanting to move just yet. Perhaps it'll do so once it's forced to anyway by the heat. Might be forced to move out of the sun towards the shade. Probably move towards where that sound was coming from to investigate. Some of our students have also arrived in the sighting now, so if you do hear a voice, it is the students learning all about lion behavior. It's quite phenomenal for them to be able to experience these animals up close. Scanning actually into the sun, which is quite strange. Often you'll find animals with their backs to the sun. It's not comfortable to look into the sun. Sorry, Mr. Lion, I did not mean to tell you what to do. You can do anything you want. You are the king. I really feel like he's giving me a dirty look. We've moved a bit further away from the lion so that we can I suspect he's going to walk this way towards into the wind so he can smell whatever might be ahead of him, maybe for some last-minute hunting opportunities if there are any, and also just to smell if there are anything that needs to be avoided. So we've moved a bit further away so that we can watch him. He meanders his way up towards us. There's a very interesting bird flying over that I just want to try and have a look at quickly. Oh, what is that? Goodness, now's not the time, Mike. Focus on the lion. But it is a very interesting looking bird. It looks like a courser of some sort. An odd time of day for it to be moving about. And when you have sightings like this, when there's an animal like a lion which is, staying still and you think it might be there a while, it's the best opportunity for you to look around and see what else is happening, because it's so often that you're so focused on an animal that something else just sort of arrives in the scene without you even knowing about it. So many opportunities where we've been watching sleeping lions and then someone turns around and says, oh, by the way, there's also a leopard in this tree over there, and, or whatever, something like that. It's always good to keep scanning around to make sure that you're aware of everything that's around us. So the other reason the lion might be facing that way is not just because of the sun. As I said, it's quite odd that they face into the sun. Normally it's away. But also the wind is coming from its back. And so it can smell and hear everything coming from behind it quite easily. Now it's using its eyesight to scan the opposite direction where it might not hear or smell something arriving or approaching. Now, this clearing is often full of impalas. Counted about 60 yesterday. About 60 male impalas moving through here, as well as a lot of zebras playing and chasing each other around, and they've all moved off now. It's quite often the case that when you drive through an area and you know there was lions around, if you see that there's no herbivores around, it's likely that they've moved out because the lions or predator is right there. But then again, it's often always thought that when you see impalas and zebras and other herbivores that they can't possibly be predators. But that's just not true, because imagine if the herbivores always knew where all the predators were. The predators would never catch anything. This lion would never be able to get a meal. So you can be sitting watching impalas, and 50 meters away or less, there can be a lion sitting or a leopard or whatever. So just because you see impalas or herbivores and they look relaxed doesn't mean that there's no predator around. It just means that they don't know if there's a predator around. And sometimes even if they do know the predator is there, I've seen oftentimes in open clearings like this, the lion is sitting very relaxed, showing absolutely no signs of hunting or aggression, and impalas can be feeding, 60 meters away quite happily. Tout le monde, this is one of the most handsome lions I've seen in a long time. He hasn't got too many major scars, although I'm sure he's got a few scratches on his nose that you can see. I'm sure his mane has probably got a few scratches underneath it, but it's thick and luxurious. I mean, it really is a majestic animal. Sometimes you can see a lion and the mane is a little bit scraggly or floppy or whatever. This one looks like it's just had a good hair wash and condition and then a bit of a blow dry. It's just really, really poofy. And you can see the mane extends far down its back, and you can't see, it hasn't stood up yet, but how far it extends down its chest. Sometimes you get extremely hairy lions who have manes that go right down to their chest and even down the backs of their legs. Just serves to make them just a lot larger, or make them look a lot larger than they actually are, which is of course important when they're trying to intimidate rivals. He was vocalizing just before we left. We got a call from someone. We were driving. We didn't hear it, but someone said there's lion audio coming from Impala Plains. And so he was definitely vocalizing before. But vocalizing plus the long-distance visual of this lion by another lion will probably mean that he's not going to have to fight today. Because if I saw this lion and I was another lion, I would say he is in great condition and he looks massive and strong. And the fact he doesn't have a lot of scars means that he probably is doing his job and keeping other lions away. If he was failing at that, and if he was under attack constantly by other lions trying to take over his territory, you would find lots of scratches and cuts all over and scars all over this lion. I mean, we could be wrong. I could be wrong. If he stands up, we might find that he's missing a whole leg or something. I don't know, but he looks in great condition to me. If this is the same lion that was spotted not last night but the night before by the students, who were with Taylor actually, it might be that this lion has a bit of a limp. Alyssa, beautiful boy is a perfect way to describe this lion. Absolutely picture perfect. And look at that blonde mane, very, very crisp white chin, fur. Oh, sorry about that, that's my radio. Crispy white fur on its chin, smooth coat. Everything about this lion is perfect, honestly. Alyssa, I think that this could be one of the Masangulo males. I think. They're the only two male lions that I've seen regularly here on Pride Lands. And normally they're in a coalition. It might be that he was calling because he's lost the other member. I don't know. The other lion that I've seen which had a limp was a much younger male lion who was a little skittish, a little bit unrelaxed with the vehicle. And this lion is supremely relaxed. I mean, there's two vehicles now in this sighting, watching this lion, and it's paying us almost no attention at all. Well, actually, it is paying us no attention. It's just looking around every now and again if there's a sound of like a vehicle in the distance. It sort of puts its head up and listens, but showing no signs of being worried. So I don't think it's one of those skittish males that have passed through. I don't think it's nomadic. But I stand to be corrected. It's been a while since I saw Masangulo males. I mean, I know that they've been seen on the properties surrounding us and even on Pride lands, but not by me. I've just been in the wrong place at the wrong time. I've been really, really fortunate in my time as a guide to have also been a part of lots of research. You know what's really, really amazing? A lion's mane looks very fluffy, right? And you'd think if you went to go and touch that lion, it'd be the softest thing ever. It's actually quite wiry. It's quite thick and strong. And, not only does it give it a larger profile, but it also helps to protect those vital blood vessels on its neck from attack. So very thick and wiry, and almost like a shield, a defense mechanism, in a sense. With a leopard, it's completely the opposite. That literally is the softest thing you've ever felt. Like a fluffy teddy bear. Yeah, I've been very, very fortunate to have been part of some research where they darted and collared lions and leopards in Botswana. That was really fun. Very interesting to watch how it's done. I really hope to see him stand up and walk. I mean, he won't stay in this clearing much longer, I don't think, just because it is getting warmer now. It should be around about 30 degrees already. Soon this lion will get up and start sauntering, I hope, to the shade on the Pridelands side of the boundary. And we'll get to see how is this lion's belly. Is it full? Is it empty? In good condition? Is he injured? And if it has got an injury, it might be that that's why they're separated if it is the Masangulos, because maybe they had a big fight and now they're just taking a bit of time apart. That happens sometimes.
From the lion, who are the king of the jungle, to the buffalo, who is one of the big five. And you can see there's a dagger boy here slowly grazing because the grass is too soft here. There's lots of water, moisture in the grass. It becomes easy for him. When they age, these buffaloes tend to lose their molars, or their molars wear off. And in that manner, because of this grass sometimes can be hard, they prefer where the grass is soft and has more water. They always hang around in a place where we call mini home range, which covers about 2 to 4 square kilometers. So this home range will be utilized like territories. There's a good supply of water, there's a good supply of grass, and also browsing, because buffaloes can be selective. They can also browse sometimes when grass is sparse. He's not alone. He has another one who is just close to him. And so, being two of them, it becomes easy to protect themselves from predators, because they'll fall prey to lions and hyenas. There's also dominance within the bachelor herds like this. Whenever the big herds of buffaloes cross or come across this bachelor, they sometimes mate with the cows, and so high-ranking bulls in the bachelors always have the mating rights. Buffaloes cannot stay without drinking for a long time, so they have to make short trips to the water. And the reason why these bachelors always hang around those small home ranges, because they don't travel long distance, so the water is just within the home range. tell you, is that a Cape buffalo? Yes, this is a Cape buffalo. So around this place where we are in the Mara, we only have the Cape buffalo. Sometimes we can call them the Savannah buffalo. And in northern part of Kenya or central Kenya, we have the forest buffalo, which are smaller than the Cape buffalo. So there's no rivalry whatsoever within the bachelors, so they're always happy and peacefully grazing together, hanging around together, because they form a formidable force against predators. So there's always nice teaming up like this. Sometimes these bachelors can be 2, the numbers can increase, you can find 10. There's a place just between the River Pride and the Mugora Pride area where we always come across about 11 bachelors. Sometimes if there's no rubbing stump, you can see them leaning against each other. So funny. Beverly, how did the Big Five come about? So before hunting was abolished here in East Africa, we had what we call hunting safaris, and trophy hunting was a big major part of that. So they always hunted for the lion, rhino, elephant, buffalo, and leopard. So those were the 5 major species that were being hunted, and they later on became the Big Five, the most sought after trophy for the hunters. So I think I'll still carry on with my mission before it warms up to see if I can find those lions, because it seems like also a nice place to just wait, because you never know sometimes, because those lions can be stalking in the long grass. It happened to me severally where I just wait and watch a species, and then all of a sudden you see lions popping out of the long grass. So when it starts to heat up, these buffaloes will find a spot where they'll go and rest. Sometimes they walk into a mud pool and you see them resting in the mud pool, or maybe in a pool where they cool off their bodies. Because they've lost fur, they need that extra coating on their body, because it prevents them from biting bugs, the ticks, and also the scorching sun. I've seen countless occasions where these buffaloes will lick each other's body, because the mud that has stuck and dried off sometimes can be rich in minerals, and I've seen them licking each other's body just to get some extra nutrients into their bodies. Linda, these horns never remain the same. So they keep on, warping. If you look at a young bull to an old bull, you see the difference between the bosses. So these bulls have gone through lots of fights, and sometimes to seek dominance, they have to fight lots and lots. Sometimes they can even break their horns. So the older, the more scrappy and worn out the horns look. The wind just changed direction and he picked our scent. That's why he's staring at us. They have a very strong sense of smell. You can see the ears pointing forward, the head raised up. But being in a vehicle, we don't pose a threat to him. But if I was on foot, then that would have been danger for me. You can see how his horn looks crappy. I wonder how many fights he's had to endure before he became dominant. Marianne, this is not the same as the water buffalo, because the water buffalo, their horns are much smaller and they are widely spread out. They're a little bit easy to tame as compared to the savanna or the Cape buffaloes. So in East Africa, we don't have the water buffaloes. I think preferably they'll be found also maybe in Asia, where we come across lots of water buffaloes. The reason why they form the bachelor herd is because when they're in a big herd, when the old bulls get old, they have a very slow pace. And because buffaloes move from one home range to another within this home range, so what happens, they can't keep up with the pace. So the group divides itself into two. So we have the buffaloes which have calves, the breeding herd move together, and we have the old bulls and the younger bulls that will always hang around together. So the big bachelor herds will separate themselves from the main herds and then come to specific areas like this where they'll form like a semi-permanent territory, which we always call home range because they don't have permanent territories. So within these home ranges, we have suitable places where they can forage and drink. So once in a time, you find that the buffaloes in the big herds will always come back to these home ranges because home ranges between herds never overlap. They always use the same home ranges. So they need to drink on a regular basis, I'd say twice a day. So because the big herds keep on moving lots, sometimes these bulls can find it difficult and hard to keep up with the pace, and that's why they remain back in such places. Lisa, he definitely looks like a statue. Feeding will always be in the early morning and the late afternoon. So between mid-morning and late afternoon, they'll take time to rest as the sun gets too hot and the temperatures rise. They'll be lying down, ruminating like what he's doing right now. Our presence has made him wonder what we are. I'm sure he's seen lots of vehicles, but sometimes because we're in an open vehicle, wind changes direction, and at least he can get our scent. Buffaloes are known to be aggressive to even predators. If they see lions, sometimes they can go and chase lions away. You've seen lots of cubs dying from being stampeded by such old bulls. And that's the sole reason of wiping out competition and predators within their home ranges. Very nice. You can see a cattle egret has joined in to enjoy a ride. As you watch that cattle egret jockey riding, let's take you over to another live location.
Okay, so unfortunately we couldn't get another view of those hyenas, and we've decided to continue along. Now, they were generally heading in this direction, and we hoping that maybe they were following something worthwhile for us to follow. But we've had such a amazing morning this far. It's a cool breeze, the weather is perfect. And this road that we're traveling on now is a road that doesn't get driven that often. And from this particular part, there's a very large block of wilderness nearby, which is almost 5 times the size of Ngala in total. So there's often creatures that move around these parts of the reserve that we don't have any clue about. And then quite a while ago, there used to be an active hyena den in this part. But the vegetation here is also slightly different. It's more, there's open patches, not from where we are at this point, but there are some double-banded sandgrass. Let me see if we can get a view of them if I move a little bit further back. Oh, nice. Just have a look at that. What a beautiful view.
what you're seeing here are the beautiful inflorescences of a very special grass called Natal redtop here in South Africa. It's found all over the world. The scientific name is Melinus repens, and it's found all over the world from the Americas to Australia as well. And one thing that's very interesting about it is that ants love to collect this, especially harvester ants. You'll often find small piles of this fluffy seed material. What the ants do is the seed produces a type of oil which the ants find very attractive, and they take the seed underground, they take the oils, and they keep the part that they want, but then they throw out the fluffy bit. And the wind is just picking up now, classic. And they leave the fluffy bit on the outside, so it often creates a little bit of a mound just outside of their little ant nest. But there are other uses for this particular type of grass. Because of its beauty, it's actually used often as an ornamental grass. So you'll see it growing in gardens all over the world as an ornamental piece. It's also really good for soil stabilization. It grows very well on disturbed areas, and because of that, it also means that it's a bit of a pioneer. And it's not particularly palatable. I mean, animals do eat it, but it's not the tastiest grass. It doesn't produce a prodigious amount of leaf material. It's mostly just a very long stem and the beautiful flower head or the inflorescence. But it's used often in the mining industry to stabilize areas that have been mined and opened up. I mean, if you look at the whole stem here, I'll just move this up, you can see the leaves are quite small. They're not massive. Some grasses grow huge leaves. These ones are quite small. And so while it's in the growing phase, it's palatable, it's tasty, animals will eat it. But once it produces the flower head like what you see here, it's not particularly good anymore. It's now putting all of its energy into producing seeds and spreading itself, not so much into producing leaves for growth. It is a really wonderful grass, and I especially love the way it catches the light like this. It's a really pretty grass. One of my favorites. I often make little grass bouquets using this and the blue seed grass, which is another very awesome grass that I really like, which is used often by birds to make nests, especially the blue waxbill. Now, there is another flower that I picked at the same time as when I pulled the Natal redtop. Now, this is called Ruby Gnedia, and there's prodigious amounts of it right now. There's so much of it growing all over the bush at the moment, and it's one of the most long-lasting flowers. You'll find it growing throughout the year. It has different growth periods, and this one is especially nice because, well, first of all, it's very pretty. I don't know if it has particularly any uses. I haven't gotten that far into my research, but one thing I do know is that it's a very popular food plant for a type of insect called a jewel bug, which is really, really beautiful. And it's, I was a bit too close to the camera. It's a food plant for a bug called a jewel bug, which is incredibly well camouflaged once it moves amongst the petals on this flower. Unfortunately, I don't know too much else about it. If anyone at home knows about Ruby Gnedia, or you have it growing in your garden at all, I'd love to know if you know any uses for it. Remember to send all your questions and comments to us. We'd love to hear it. It's absolutely always super important to hear all the questions that you might have. You can send your questions to #WildEarth@FC, or even kids' questions at wildearth.tv. Please don't hesitate. You can answer them live for you right here on our safari. The lion, I also should probably mention, we actually went a moment ago to go and help Taylor. Taylor got a bit stuck in a drainage line. We went to go and help her to get unstuck. She was coming to view the lion as well. And we got her unstuck, and then we came back to where the lion was, and it was gone. The lion had moved across the boundary. It was a sneaky lion. But I don't blame it. It went for the shade, and it did exactly what I thought it would do, which is go north towards where those baboons were alarm calling. There might be other lions in the area. But right now, it's incredibly warm. DK and I were just commenting that when we were sitting with the lion, it was quite cool, the breeze was blowing, but all of a sudden, it became very hot. It's literally jumped from just below 30 or about 30 degrees to about 34. And it's going to keep climbing like this. So today's going to be one of those days where I think we might just park at a waterhole and see what comes down, because it's not going to be pleasant for any animals to be out in the sun or in these open clearings. So what we're going to do is we're going to head down towards Leopard Dam and see if there's any activity around the dam itself. and from there maybe make our way towards Ndlovu Dam. As you know, there's always elephants and buffaloes coming down to the water throughout the day to mud wallow and to drink. So wish us luck as we go on a little bit of an adventure.
Okay, from wild animals to botany, and here I have Kigelia africana, one of those unmistakable trees of these plains, and just by the looks you can tell where it gets its name. The fruit resembles a very, very big raw sausage. Yes, that's a fruit of this tree, and traditionally it's called osugroi, and this one we use it locally for brewing a local brew. Widely it's eaten by baboons, rhinos and elephants only, and this is a tree you don't want to mess around with. So no picnicking under, no camping underneath it. When they get fully grown, the fruits can weigh up to around 4 kilos. And 4 kilos coming down from around 20 feet is no joke for your head. So this is a tree we avoid by all means when it's fruiting like this, because you might have a very, very bad headache if you stand underneath it. It is endangered, I will always remind you that. So to see one fruiting gives me hope that maybe one of the seeds from these fruits will germinate somewhere after being translocated either by elephant or rhino. And it's hollow on the inside, and actually there is bees on this one. On the other side, I had to come to this one, the windward side, so that they don't pick up any of our smells. They are the African bees, very, very dangerous. You don't want them, attacking you. So I had to come to this side where they cannot pick our smell. Sometimes they come to investigate the smell of diesel, and while doing that, they pick you and is no good. Apart from that, we have another tree. It's called the Gardenia angustifolia. These ones in other parts of the world, they are ornamental. You can have them in your houses, very small. They call them miniature gardenias. But here, they grow to be very, very big and thick, loved by giraffes. That's why they have that roundy color. They're always doing the topiary. And the smell from the flower, nobody has made a better perfume than the flower. It smells so good, there is no perfume that can beat it. And looking at the number that we have here, actually, most of them are about, you see all those are gardenias, nicely shaped by giraffes. All those, they could be, each one of them is easy, over 80 years old. They become very hardy and tough, hard to penetrate, and that is a sort of protection. Yes, we have another one here that you haven't seen in quite a while. This is the Euphorbia candelabra, or the candelabra tree. You can see it resembles, candelabra. And this is a very interesting tree because I read once that its name means that a tree that grows, then dries, falls, and disintegrates and disappears completely, and looks like it's dead, but is very much alive. This is a tree. Traditionally, we use the sap to make scarring on our skins to have tattoos. So if you go to countries like Ethiopia, the Maasai people here in the Masai Mara, you see all the scarring in their bodies. The permanent markings become permanent by the use of this sap. But it is very poisonous. You cannot actually ingest it, but you can use it to make scarring in your body. Produces a white sap. And it's not related to the cactus. This one produces white sap. Cactus produces, whitish, waterish sap. So it's totally two different types of plants. That is the Euphorbia candelabra. Also mainly eaten by baboons and rhinos. Those are the only two I've seen eating. If you look through the euphorbia, you'll see the gardenia, and it's producing some flowers. You see that, Bungay? Yes, thank you. Yeah, those are the flowers. And I tell you, the smell on those flowers, you just want to, have that perfume if you love perfumes. Gardenia and gustifolia. Might look very scrubby and shapeless, but it's a tree that grows here. It's very beautiful, loved by giraffes. So those are the few trees that I have surrounding me here, and they make up part of the more than 200 species of trees that grow here. Here I have one species of Mairua, but I don't know exactly which one. This one also produces some actually flowers. They smell really good. Can be very thorny, and this one hasn't been visited by giraffes because I can see those leaves look very mouth watering. Yeah, Merua. Very many of them we have here in the Mara. Good shrubs that cheetahs give birth under. Serval cats hide there. Lions. Yes, Merua subspecies. Quite a large one, but there's also a mixture of another one there. Yeah, so a few trees that we have for you around this area here. And it's not always about the animals. Without these trees, the ecosystem won't be complete. And so it's always nice, to pick up one tree or the other. I'm gonna continue on my search for the little guys, the Owino Pride and their little cubbies. They've wandered quite a lot, and I haven't seen them since I started, but I haven't given up because I'm still in their territory, and hopefully they will show up. It's starting to warm up, and it's very, nice and open. Like I said, it's going to be a very hot day, and I'm looking forward to that because the elephants are gonna start going to the marsh, and maybe Jasiri will show up there at the marsh. Yeah, we've been looking for him everywhere. And we haven't found him, but I haven't lost hope. Yeah, let me continue on. And while I do that, let's take you to another live location.
So, very warm welcome from the Makalo group. And these lovely animals have just emerged from this very extensive burrow system, one of many that they have within this area. And everybody doing a very important behavior. First and foremost, greet the sun, just like we are doing right now. And as soon as it gets a bit warmer, we are hoping with fingers and toes crossed that we can catch a little glimpse of these new individuals and welcome them to the world. It's a little bit chilly. It's only about 19 degrees, and we've got a slight wind that's pulling in from the southwestern corner of Tswalu. So keeping things a little bit cooler for a bit longer this morning. But that's perfectly fine by our standards. Obviously that allows animals to move a little bit further into the later part of the day. These guys scanning and surveying the land around them, enjoying the warmth from the sun, and slowly starting to wake up. Some stretching going on. You can see they almost look snoozy. So this Makala group has been ranging a little bit further behind us, further to the east, and they've been hanging around there and utilizing burrow systems that are obviously inaccessible to us for viewing, and it's wonderful that they've decided to range a bit further west for us, that we can get a view of them. And especially at this burrow, this is a wonderful burrow to be at. It's nice and open, the vegetation is great around us, it's good bird life, and then also it's a fairly open system where we don't have a lot of obstruction, so when it comes to photography, it is just sublime. And also their view is also open, so they can scan and obviously be very watchful for any predators. So all 7 members are up. You can see the female on the far right hand side. This little chap moving across here. The far right hand side that David's busy putting into view now, that's the female that's just had the pups. You can see that she is lactating. You can see the very extensive nipples, and then also it's stained around the nipple itself, showing that she is nursing and still feeding these pups. That tail coming into vital play and giving that animal a great advantage by standing up to gain a little bit of height, that she can ensure that the colony is safe. These two are busy. I just want to grab this one. This one's actually snoozing and she's falling asleep. So early morning like this, when they haven't had enough time to wake up properly, they actually sit, and you can see them actually physically dozing off. It's almost like you sitting in bed and they're still trying to wake up. I've seen them basically fall asleep and actually roll over, get a rude awakening. And then also late afternoon, when they come back from a full day of foraging, they're so tired that you do have them falling asleep, physically sitting up like that, or laying on their backs, stretched out, arms up in the air. As she tit calling in front of us, choop, 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 choop. Very strong sounding bird. And everybody doing what they need to do right now. So you'll see that in the next few minutes we'll have a little bit of burrow maintenance. Also just removing fecal matter that would have been deposited in the burrow last night. So it's just too risky to come out here under the cover of darkness. Beautiful camel thorn behind that individual. The keeper, are they related to primates? So dental structure, behavior, morphological structure, reproduction, these guys are very different to that of primates. They fall into a group that are somewhat distant related to mongoose. They fall into a group called Herpestidae. They are mammals, that's a common characteristic, but in a different starlings, different group, yeah. So Herpestidae, these individuals have a specialized anal gland, like most mongoose species, which obviously is used for territorial marking and the scent signature being unique to this group. So yeah, a bit different to that of primates. If you look at primates, obviously, definitely thumbs being a very important characteristic and behavior. So very different to that of primates. But just how they're sitting and how they move sometimes, they do have a bit of a primate feature being displayed. Yeah. Oh, downward facing meerkat. Stretching the muscles and the ligaments, getting ready for today's activities. Can see everybody's become just slightly more active. Alright, we're gonna hold position here and hopefully have a view of these little pups, and we'll be sure to let you guys know. We'll see you shortly.
Bird is going to move. If you guys want her, there's no time. Like, she's going to move, and then it's going to be a case of like bashing through the thicket, you know. There's no time, and we're going to spend one more minute with Tim and his elephant. We have Miss Tandy. Those rosettes that you can see there belong to Tandy. It's been a very difficult mission to find her, but we've got her, and I think she's hungry. Look, she's keeping her body low, shoulder blades up. I don't know what she sees or if she sees anything at all, but she's moving through the landscape here very carefully. She doesn't want her presence to be known. Haven't seen any signs of the cub, but I'm sure he's around here somewhere. We had him yesterday. He was in a very, very tricky spot. Here she comes. So I don't know if she's actually stalking something or if she's just got a scent in her nostrils. She knows there's something around and she's just trying to keep herself really, really under the radar here. Now it's windy, it's picked up. I'm sure you can hear. Now, believe it or not, it's the exact road and the exact spot we had Tandy hunting the other day. She's really staying on Torchwood. Torchwood seems to be the safest sort of stomping grounds for Tandy right now. I think we're just going to reposition so that we can give other vehicles a view as well. Bear with me. Oh, she's running after something. We'll try and follow her. She's going into the open grass, which is perfect. We should have another view in just a moment. There she is. Why is she running? Okay, there you go. She's skipping almost. It's not quite running. She's skipping. Twitchy tail. Ears up. She spots something. It would be so wonderful to see her hunt. One of the most incredible hunts I've ever seen was Tandy. She's an extraordinary huntress. Oh, it's Impala. They don't see her, though. I'm just going to pull up to the side here. Yet the impala don't see her, from what I can gather. And that's why she was running. When we just saw her skipping there, she was trying to clear the open area as fast as possible. In the open area, she's exposed. So she ran, she knew that, and she ran to be behind this sort of thicket here. Come on, Tandy girl. You got this. It was just a handful of days ago that we had Tandy here in Torchwood with her cub on another impala, adult impala, and this is her trying to hunt again. It's such a feat of precision, assessment, judgment for leopards to make a successful hunt. I'm just going to go forward, I think. There's a nice view of her here. It's not behind sticks. There you go. Now, I can no longer see the impala, but she'll be able to. Not only will she see them, she'll hear them, and she'll smell them. Delicious scent of breakfast. That's what I'm like when I see my peanut butter. Now, the thickness of the bush, because it's summer, makes it very difficult for us. It makes it difficult for signal, it makes it difficult to drive, makes it difficult to see. But for Tandy, it's perfect. It's perfect for the predators. They're less exposed. They can use the dense bush. And that's exactly what she's doing. Summertime really is a feast for the predators. My goodness, my extraordinary cameraman here has spotted the impala. You see that? You can see about 10% of the impala there. That's what she's looking at. Now, impala's a medium-sized antelope. Your small antelopes are your duiker, your steenbok. Medium-sized, it's a little bit more of a challenge, but it's the perfect meal opportunity for a leopard. And the fact that Tandy has a cub to feed, a growing, hungry little horse, she needs to think bigger. Leopards will snack on anything, but if she wants to have a meal, a guaranteed meal for the next few days for her and her son, she needs to go much bigger than just a steenbok or a termite or two. She's aborted for now. I don't know whether the impala, she feels as if she's been spotted. Biding her time. wind will work in her favor as well. Or at least if she is downwind, that'll work in her favor. Oh, here we go. Scotty, you're asking, is the wind helping her? I would imagine yes, Scotty. The fact that impalas, or most prey species, actually have incredible senses in that they can see exceptionally well, they can hear exceptionally well, and they have an incredible heightened sense of smell. And they use that to find the predators, or detect predators, should I say. So when it's windy, Tandy will be aware that it will affect their hearing. They'll still be able to hear, but the sort of direction and accurate judgment of sound will be impaired. Not only that, also the sense of smell will be everywhere. They may be able to smell her if she's upwind, but the sense of smell will be all over the place. They may get really nervous, but they won't be able to detect. We can smell a predator, but where is she coming from? So yes, I think the wind will work in Tandy's favour today, and she will know that. Feel the intense heat from the sun as well. It's actually really lovely that the wind is breaking it for us all, Tandy included. Do you know, with my naked eye, I cannot see her. Of course, through the monitor and through the camera lens, we can. Oh, she's on the move. I think we should maybe reposition a little bit. Sir 50, how far is Tandy from the impala? Whew, I have no idea. I can't see the impala. But let's get closer, Sir 50, and then we'll be able to tell you. I really can't see any impala. But you know, leopards will only really launch their ambush attack when they're within 10, 20 meters. Max. Really, 10 meters is perfect. They're ambush predators. They need to be close in order to successfully hunt. They've got to close that distance, otherwise it's never going to work. So Tandy's here, Sir 50. Oh, I see the impala. The impala's looking, but I don't think there's been any alarm calls yet, has there? I haven't heard any snorts. But the wind could be blocking that for me as well. So I think this impala is suspicious, but doesn't know what. Suspicious that something's going on, but doesn't know that Tandy's actually here. She's moving. I don't think Tandy's going to give up on this one. She's a stubborn queen. So we're going to move, I think. There's another vehicle, but I think we need to move in order to keep up with her. Okay, can you see her? It's not going to be so easy. When following a predator that's on the hunt, you've got to be really careful that your positioning and your presence here does not affect their hunt in any way, shape, or form. to reposition again. I don't see a single impala. It's either my terrible eyesight. I have to say, her stomach doesn't look too empty though. She's going for the freeze tactic. Now, if you look at Tandy's freeze tactic, she is not moving a muscle. She looks like the perfect statue. Now, if you're a prey species, be it a steenbok, a duiker, an impala, looking at Tandy, she will really blend in, but the rosettes help break up her body outline. And therefore it's more difficult for these species to actually pick her out. And that's what she's relying on here, and that's exactly why they have the rosettes. So it's not so easy to pick out the outline of a predator. It's broken up with the rosette pattern. She's looking at a steenbok now. I don't want to turn my engine on in case I interrupt this moment. It's just through there. Ah, there you go. My cameraman's on fire today. Looking suspicious but not aware that the Queen of Djuma is staring right at her. And this could go on a long time. It could involve a lot of attempts. She was going for impala earlier. The impala have clearly got away. She's changed tactic. Now going for a steenbok. The predator doesn't always have the advantage. It's like I'm looking at two statues. She's frozen time. The steenbok's frozen in time. just feel the tension in the air. The Steenbok hasn't moved. Neither has Tandy. And Tandy knows that as soon as she moves, she's spotted. Game over. What she's waiting for here is the Steenbok to relax again. Start feeding, forgetting that there's a threat or a possible threat, and that's when she'll move closer. There's still about... I'm terrible at judging distance. How many meters between the two? 50? 40. Okay, we're going to go with 40 meters, which is about 120 feet, I think, between the two here. The Steenbok's starting to move, which means it could possibly be starting to relax. And this is why sometimes when we see hunts, it looks remarkably easy for the predator. It's not, especially leopards. They don't have pride mates or clan mates or pack mates. They're less than a fifth, it's estimated, that they're successful. And they spend a lot of energy. So although Tandy's staying remarkably still, that requires control. That requires muscular control. She's really focused. She needs to keep her body down to the low to the ground. Be silent. This all requires a lot of energy. It's all about the energy budget. She needs to make sure she never goes into deficit. Noodles. Yes, we do have a lot of Steenbok and Nasabi sands. They're not always easy to put on camera, though. They're a lot smaller than an impala. They're sometimes nicknamed the dwarf antelope because they're very small. They have monogamous pairing, so you have the male and female that have a really small territory. I think it's around 900 meters squared. But they're territorial. They mark their territory. And sometimes they tend to freeze. So they don't always run. Sometimes they go for the freeze tactic, trying to blend in with the background, and they actually do because they are so small. So when you get to an impala size, it's more advantageous to be in a herd because you're too large to blend into the background anyway. You're going to be seen. So you may as well at least have a herd, be numerous, and then you can be a little bit selfish. If there's lots of you, then there's a far less chance that you are going to be taken by the predator. Whereas for a Steenbok, you do blend into the background. You're small enough to hide. So therefore, it's more advantageous to be on your own. And although they're part of a monogamous relationship, or a monogamous pairing, sorry, I don't know if you can call it a relationship, they're not often seen together. They remain in visual contact with one another very often, but you won't see them just walking around together, again, because it's drawing attention to them. Their tactic is to remain hidden. Use your size to your advantage. There we go. Steering right in the direction of Tandy. Very, very suspicious. I don't know if it's a scent or a sound. I don't think it'll be sound. I think somehow the scent of the predator has alerted this little... Oh, she's still eating. See that? She's still chewing the cud. She doesn't know where the threat's coming from, though. Okay, so we're going to sit tight here. Tandy's gone flat. And if there's any change, you'll be right back with us.
Welcome back to the Mara after a long search for the River Pride and the Winos and the Lolos. Now I'm headed to the Mugoro area to see if I'll be lucky. So to our left, that is where the River Pride resides, and to our right, that's where the Ololo Pride normally lives. So I'm carrying on, headed to the Mugoro area. See what else I'll find, but who knows, along the way there might be something, because the long grass sometimes becomes a good hiding point for most predators. So as I'm driving, I'm keeping a close eye to check the signs that sometimes can lead you to a predator. Also, this is the time of the day when elephants walk toward the marsh, so I'm expecting to find those herds that slowly graze heading to the river and the marsh. If not, I might head to the river to check if the water level is still low or high, because I'm a little bit worried because of how I saw it yesterday. The water levels are getting super low. So I first might check on the river and then head to check on the Mugoros.
And we have found a waterbuck, a large bull waterbuck standing on the edge of a watering hole. And just have a look at him. You can see his horns are raised, his neck as well, with his head up. He looks quite alert. It almost looks as if he is standing to dry himself out in the sun. But what we can't see at this moment is that there's another one. Just have a look at that walk. You can almost feel how proud this animal is. There's the other one laying down right at the back behind that big tree. You can only see its backside and the very, very conspicuous white ring. Now, earlier on, there was a bit of posturing going on. Now, posturing, that's just a way that antelopes often, especially male antelopes, they use to kind of show themselves off to the other in a tense situation. And at the end of the day, that helps them to avoid the actual physical contact or conflict. Now this one that we are looking at now, you can see his tail going vigorously, and I think that's because of all the flies and all the insects near the water's edge. There's a lot of elephant dung around, a lot of other animals' dung around. And after the rains, the insects are everywhere. But it's a large body of water. It attracts quite a lot of creatures, like that fish eagle over there. You can see it looks like a younger fish eagle that's just about reached its full adult plumage. Not 100% yet. I actually haven't seen a fish eagle at this watering hole in a very, very long time. There's quite a strong breeze blowing, and over the open space of this watering hole, it is channeled down between the trees and over the water, and it's actually quite strong. And I think that's why this fish eagle is sitting right on the edge of a very big leadwood, almost hiding behind the canopy of the leadwood. I guess it's just sheltering from the wind. Mike, do most prey animals eventually get eaten? That is a good question, and it is a tricky question to answer, because it does also have a little bit of a situation regarding space and the area. But the short answer would be no. Not all prey animals do get eaten eventually. There are a lot of them that do die of old age. Their teeth, their molars get worn down and they can't eat anymore. During drought, they might suffer from thirst or a lack of nutrients. And then animals also do die because of cold or excessive heat. Sometimes large herd animals might get trampled. So I guess the short answer would be no. Just have a look at that waterbuck there. Ooh, I can see the other one starting to walk over towards him. Now we did have a clash of horns a little bit earlier. And that's a big one. You can see that one's really big, slightly larger. What an epic standoff. I think in this case the tails are going not just because of the fly, but also because of the excitement. Even though that one at the back looks slightly older and he might have more experience, I think that these two are quite evenly matched. And maybe that's what we're seeing. There's a bit of a standoff over territory. But then again, who wouldn't want to have a territory like this? It's got water. It's got good food. Just look at the green grass all around them. After the rain's often the best time to contest for a good space like this. I'm sure both of these animals are aware that the females will be drawn to an area like this. You can see the ears are up. They do pay attention to each other's movements, even though they look like they're not. Trying to act proud. Look at that, a little bit of a head swipe towards the other one. Almost as if saying, he's got those horns He's trying to be a little bit more intimidating. There we go. Oh, this is amazing. This is something you don't get to see often. That one, his head is slightly turned towards the other one, horns facing that side. They do try to divert their attention, and they do move off every now and again. You can see the hesitation within the last step towards a physical headbutt. It just goes to show these animals it's just a way of naturally competing to pass on its genes. It doesn't really want to necessarily fight the actual fight or clash horns. That's a risk of injury, but just have a look at that big one. Readying there for impact almost. It should be really interesting to see if they are actually going to go at it seriously. Also staring around, they are looking proud in the way that they stand, upright, trying to advertise themselves. Then they also look away from each other to try and see if there's something else going on. There is a strong breeze blowing. They are out in the open. But with a wind like this, I think their hearing wouldn't be as effective as normal. So they have to use their other senses, and in this case, eyesight. Over an open space, these waterbuck would be able to see quite far if there might be any danger approaching or any other predators, or maybe they're just having a look to see if there are any females around watching. I do think that the term majestic often gets thrown around quite easily, but these animals truly are majestic.
So very tense here. I'm biting my nails, the one thing I shouldn't be doing, and the reason I paint them, but it's happening. The steenbok started to resume normal behaviour, feeding, grazing, walking. Candy moved in closer. You see how well she blends in there? But the steenbok, who we can't give you a visual of right now, has stopped again. Suspicious again. You see how much the long grass works in Tandy's favour here. She's really determined. But the steenbok is just suspicious. Can't see anything, but suspicious that something's going on. Something's not quite right. And no, it's not. You are being watched by an apex predator. You're being watched very intently. Goodness, they're both just staring at each other. One is far more aware of the other's presence than the other. But that's what Tandy's waiting for. The steenbok to resume normal behavior and then she'll home in closer. Can hardly see her. The steenbok's still eating, not facing in the direction of Tandy anymore. I say give or take a few minutes and it will forget there was ever a threat. Okay, once again, we are going to sit tight here, but we're going to send you guys across to another location.
I hope that leopard gets to have a meal this morning. Now hippos are just gathered on this Mara River. I can see the water levels are getting low and low each and every day. So when such times come, there's what we call intense moment, because everyone wants to find a good space, and fights sometimes can happen between these hippos. That particular spot, about 4 days ago, it was all submerged. But now that the water level is low, you can see them basking at ease, where some of them are in the water while enjoying the sun. Even though it's our short rains period, we don't have enough supply of water or rain all over the country, especially from the source of this river, which flows all the way from the Mau forest. So the river will flow all the way to the Lake Victoria. It's about 290 kilometers from the mouth to the source. Cuts across the Mara Reserve and the Mara Triangle about 60 kilometers. So within these 60 kilometers, we have lots of hippos. And sometimes when such situations come, you find that everyone will be squeezing in at a particular spot, just like what we see right now. You see the doves enjoying a morning clean. There's a ring-necked dove actually showering or bathing in that water. Pig, what purpose do hippos serve? So hippos will actually serve a very nice purpose or important purpose in these waters, because we have aquatic life. So we have fishes and other aquatic life. So when they defecate in the water. And because they defecate a big amount of dung in these waters, so those aquatic life, the fish, the catfish and other fishes get to eat the remains of the dung or whatever is deposited in this water. So you find that there is also a supply of food, even though we see that as waste. So they play a big purpose, a big role in these rivers. I can see some hippos walking towards where we can see the hippos resting. So I'm just going to keep an eye and see what they're up to as I take you over to another live location.
And a herd of elephants have come down to have a very quick drink. Have a look at that. You can see the mother is urging the young ones to move quickly. She seems slightly nervous. Unlike that wildebeest there at the back, it seems like he couldn't care less. You see, even taking it out on the wildebeest. Now, I'm not 100% sure why that might be, but I do think it is the fact that she is on her own with her two offspring. Some impala, some male impala, wildebeest. It's come down now to drink, but you can see they're stopping for a while and they're first feeding on the new grass around the edges of the watering hole. Now, normally, if this watering hole had to be at full capacity, that area where they're standing would be underwater. But when there is no water, it's a good spot for grasses to grow.
This steenbok, who I can see is a male now that is out in the open, has just walked right towards her. I can't see Tandy now at all, but she's very close. She's very close to the steenbok. Has resumed feeding. She's somewhere there. It's walking right towards her. It has no idea. I'm just looking through my binos to see if I can. My heart's beating fast now. This little steenbok just walked right out and into the open, feeding, grazing, treading carefully as they always do, but Tandy should be somewhere on the right. And she's either going to launch out, this is her chance. You see how the steenbok's treading really carefully, then smelling, then treading, stopping to listen. That's actually normal behaviour for a steenbok. But it seems to have completely forgotten that there was a suspicion or a threat. Oh goodness, it's walking right towards it. Oh, it's running. Tandy. Tandy girl, what happened there? It's gone. It's completely gone. Aubrey's laughing. There she is, you see her? Tandy. And after all that, she'll just let it go. Game is up. Another failed attempt. %84% for the Kruger results in failure. And she'll just try and see what you can spot next, be it impala, duiker, steenbok. Whew, She almost had that. That was a very, very close call. I think she might be a tad grumpy now. Okay, let's try and reposition. Oh, or try to. I can't see her. I know she's somewhere here. Ah, there she is. Do you see her just through the thicket there, 11 o'clock? I'm not sure we've got the best views, but she's in the shade now. She's probably trying to cool down. Now she's moving. And it's time to look for something else. She did so well. That was actually remarkable that you all got to see that and how it really doesn't always result in success. Sorry. Bless me. And off she goes. She's smelling, she's looking. She's no longer got her body down, you see that? But she hasn't spotted anything yet. She doesn't know what's around. Our belly doesn't look too empty though. I don't think Tandy's particularly starving, but leopards being opportunistic, they will always seize every chance they get when it comes to food. Okay, I'm going to try and follow her. Hopefully she'll get lucky at some point today. It would be nice if she was obliging enough to position herself somewhere we can sit in the shade. It's getting very hot, uncomfortably so. Okay, I have completely lost visual of her. Can you see her? I know she's somewhere there, but I really can't see her. It's not safe to just drive straight on in. So I think we're going to take our time and try and relocate our queen, and hopefully she'll have some success before the end of the drive.
Well, I'm still driving. I did see the Owinos somewhere back there, but the area they were in was very, very, very tricky. There's no way, we could get a signal there. And so I moved on and I've come to this area hoping either to see Jasiri or anybody else. But there is a lot of trees here, including flowers, and the one you see, the dominant one, the one that Bungei is pointing to, is the same one we've talked about, a few days ago. It's called orange-leafed croton. And the orange-leafed croton is a hardy bush, used to build, huts in the Maasai culture. And apart from it, it's used to build the huts, and also it's an insect repellent. It does have that orange leaf, and that's why it's called the orange-leafed croton. Apart from that, we have another one called Cedar Maasai. I'll show it to you. I don't know if you can. It's over here, and it's called Cedar Maasai, and It's got this yellow flower.
I can see our hippos are still gathered, and some of them are just walking out of the river, as more are still joining on that pod. Looks like a favorable spot where everyone goes to gather there, because the sandbank is actually even soft and at least wide enough for them to rest. You can see there's a bit of a standoff just close to where we are. Is it true that hippos can't swim? Hippos can at least propel in water, but not very much of a good swimmer, but at least they can maneuver or make their way to where they want, because I've seen in places where hippos were submerged in the water for more than about 20 minutes and were able to propel out of the water. So they are not as good swimmers, but at least they can be able to maneuver in the water. They use what we call the buoyancy, holding their breath, which actually makes them go in and up out of the water. There's a bit of a standoff. These two bulls are not happy about each other. That is an aggressive display. Keep off. Another one just came in. Like I told you, when water levels go low, there's lots of tension that comes in between these hippopods. Could be there was an intruder that came in and all of them are walking away from him. Most of the time you find that will be bulls who come to investigate, because the dominant bulls actually sometimes don't always hang around one point. They always patrol their territory, stretching for sometimes up to about 10 kilometer stretch, depending on whether it's a river or a lake. And by the look of things, it seems like all of them are just walking to that pod there. So within this pod, there's always one dominant bull that always patrols and is responsible for all the members in this particular spot. So the young ones or the less dominant bulls will always be in a less preferred area where the water levels are a bit high, where the bottom is not even, so not a smooth area to be. So that particular spot is what is considered to be the best resting place. So young bulls or subordinate ones will not actually be within the dominant bull there. And if at all they're younger ones, they have to be submissive to him. The three hippos are going to join that pod. Scotty, do hippos not eat the whole day just like elephants do? Hippos will only gather to eat at night most of the time. So during the day they'll be in the water, and the reason being they have a very soft skin that they can burn from sunburn. So they'll always be in the water. There's some biting bugs that always sometimes bother them, but oftentimes you find that they'll be basking. But during the evening or night, that is when they'll be out to graze. So they are known to be resting during the day and then come out to graze at night. More members are coming in to join the hip hop beach. Stuck in bed, what is a hippo's primary sense? Sight and hearing. So they have a very good hearing. Once something just walks into the bush or near the bank there, you'll see them all running or jumping into the water. So they have a high sense of hearing and also sight. It seems like more hippos are joining that pod or that particular beach. So we'll just be waiting here to see how many will gather around there. So taking you over to another live location.
We finally managed to catch up with her. She's grooming, possibly sulking. She's in the shade behind the most bizarre looking termite mound that seems to have gone vertical. Decided to go upwards towards the sky rather than outwards, and she's just recuperating. As I mentioned earlier, that will have taken up a lot of her energy, believe it or not. All that precision, focus, stalking. So she's just recuperating, trying to cool down. It's very, very hot. I think we're in for what we would call a scorcher today. And she's just resting before the next challenge. I'm sorry, girl. It did not work in your favor, did it? But that steenbok was very suspicious from early on. Very suspicious. Panting, rapid breathing, cooling down. Nice breeze in the shade. It's actually ideal. I wonder where our cup is. The cup doesn't enjoy when there's too many vehicles, but he's slowly becoming habituated, which is really, really important out here, I think, you can't avoid the vehicles. Vehicles are everywhere. So instead of fleeing, habituation is definitely a better option. Bless me, sorry, I keep sneezing. That cannot be pleasant for you all. I apologize. So I think we're going to enjoy the shade along with Tandy for a little bit longer and see what she decides to get up to.
Nikimaliza hizi utarudi. Okay, all right, good people. Here I am with a few array of different plants that some of them are medicinal and some of them can be very good camouflage, like what I'm wearing over here. This is the water lettuce, and it's very dry. It has been transported here by the hippos, and if by chance there was any water in the next 6 months, it will definitely germinate. Makes very good camouflage. Apart from that, I have other siphon, Pelidas. It's also called Osinoni. This one, traditionally over here, it's used to cure sinus and sometimes colds. Smells really, really nice. If you press it like this, and then you smell it, there's something, nothing like it. It's the wild mint. And then you put it on your nose like that, and as you continue, it clears your sinuses. Apart from that, I have the black-eyed Susan. I've learned not to pick up flowers, so I've just decided to pick up this one. It's called Thambogi alata in English, in Latin, sorry, and it's just beautiful. It's one of those flowers that we always see out here in the wild. And the next one, it's quite a big one. This one is called Cedar masaika, a very hardy little shrub that is eaten mostly by elephants. This one, traditionally at home, you pick up quite a good number of these, and you tie a nice rubber over here, or you hold them like this, and it makes a very, very good broom. Cleans the outside of villages really, really well. And apart from that, it's a good luck charm. In case, you've done something really, really wrong. I remember during those days, rushing to school, and you hear the bell a mile away, and you're trying to run really, really fast. You hope that you don't get those whips from the teacher on duty. And so, for good luck, you just soften it a little bit, tie a few knots, like that, a few knots on it, and then put it in your pocket. And make sure that the teacher doesn't see, because the charm will be broken. And it stays there until you get into class. But remember, you have to still continue to try and dodge the teacher. Apart from that, I have Gutenbergia cordifolia. This is a very good medicine for toddlers. When they cry at a very, very young age, this little plant, the roots are uprooted from the soil, cleaned nicely, and then soaked in a small amount of milk. Of course, you have to be very careful not to put a lot. The women do that. And it is given to the toddlers. And it cures those upset stomach that make little guys cry a lot at night. Gutenbergia cordifolia. And apart from that, we have Cisnium stibulosum, or the tissue paper flower. You see it over there. There are so many, and they come in different colors. They're in white, in purple, and this time of the year, the Mara is full of them. They're just everywhere, hence their name, you'll think that, somebody has drawn tissues all over the place, but it's just the tissue paper flower. And from there onwards, I think we're gonna move on, try to find something new. Come on. Maybe there will be a leopard or something else further up. Let's see. Apart from that, we do have very many plants around this area. We do have Diospyros abyssinica, and it's used as a whip. I do want to show anybody, just in case you decide to come and pick up a few. I'll continue on. Let's take you to another live location. Well, here in the plains, I think the camouflage will work really well if there was something. But it's just a very beautiful open plains, long grass. Our grasses here grow up to around 4 feet, and sometimes it's impossible to spot anything if there isn't anything, because this grass is very high, more than most small games that we look for, especially the cats, the serval, the cheetah, the lion, the leopard. Very easy, and if they don't want to be seen, it's very easy for them to just lie down and you won't see them, even if they're about 30 feet from you. But we are lucky, sometimes we spot them as they decide to hide or they try to run away from you. Also, it's very tricky driving this time of the year because those small puddles have been made bigger by warthogs, buffalo wallowing, and so if you're not very careful, you might drive into one, and it's not very good because you might get stuck. So you have to be really, really careful when the grass, becomes this high. Of course, it's nice sometimes to drive out in the open like this because you can see very far, and sometimes you think there is nothing until you're right on top of it. That's when you see it. This time of the year we call it the flower month because very, very many flowers will be blooming and will be seen this month. Okay, let me find something. Let's take you to another location.
We've got a beautiful group of animals here on the zebra plains just nearby to Ndlovu Dam. There's a whole herd of buffalo that's sort of made its way into the drainage line. I'm probably heading towards Ndlovu Dam a little bit later. As you can see, a couple of the bulls trailing the herd, moving amongst the thickets. There's a female at the back there, but they're all moving, feeding slowly the luscious grasses sheltered by the trees towards the drainage line. There's lots of other animals here as well. We've got some zebra that were just feeding in front of us. They are following the buffalo herd as well. Well, they basically stay in this clearing most of the time. And with the zebras, also a couple of very young warthogs, which I think are too young, really, to be on their own. But we've not seen an adult hanging around with them for a while. So it might be that they've become independent quite young. Or maybe the parent has been untimely ripped by a predator of some sort. But who knows? They seem to be doing well enough. And they have a little defense mechanism themselves, to be honest. The little warthogs have tufts of white fur on the side of their head, which makes it look like they have tusks. So from a distance, a predator might just think that, hey, this thing has weapons, I better keep my distance. There's one facing us just to the left there, and you can see those little white furs. Do you see that? So it makes it look like it might have tusks. From a distance, a predator like a cheetah or maybe an inexperienced leopard might say, nah, I'm not interested. That thing can hurt me. I don't want that. There were a couple of wildebeest and some impala, but they've moved off now. But it's just, the clearings like this, especially on the nice mornings when the rain has fallen overnight, full of water and the grass is green and fresh and everything is just in a very relaxed state. Even the male lion we saw earlier was super relaxed. And in the shade, which is where we're sitting right now, it's the most wonderful temperature. I'm actually surprised that the zebras are still out in the open, and the warthogs. I would have thought they would take the buffalo's example and move towards the thickets where it's maybe a little bit more sheltered. But then again, a buffalo is a very powerful animal, and it can defend itself should something be hiding in those thickets, whereas the zebras and the warthogs, not so much. Especially not the warthogs, especially not when they're so small like this. They look like both female warthogs, just moving off there. So they'll never develop the massive tusks of the males, the massive weapons, but they will get little tusks that are very sharp, especially on the bottom jaws. They're having the best time. It's a time of plenty for all the animals. There's plenty of food everywhere. At the moment in this clearing, the grass isn't too long, so they can see any predators sneaking up on them. Really quite an awesome time of year. This is probably my favorite time of year, the spring. The spring is just super great because all the flowers are sprouting, all the birds are getting active. You can see the buffalo also feeding amongst the thickets there, amongst the bushes. Constantly swishing their tails though, the warthogs, the zebras and the buffaloes all constantly moving those tails, trying to keep biting flies, which are often following massive herds of buffalo like this, stopping the biting flies from getting to those sensitive underparts where the blood vessels are close to the surface and the skin is quite thin. Still keeping a watchful eye out. The warthog and the zebra are moving about, so every now and again the buffaloes just put their head up when they see movement, just to make sure it isn't anything predatory. Most of the animals, I see the zebras have moved off now. They're sort of heading in the direction of Ndlovu Dam. Now it's getting warm. Wildebeest and the impala as well. I think everything is going to be making its way towards the dam in the next hour or so. And there'll probably also be a procession of elephants also keeping us company in the camp. We've seen lots of young impalas as well. They're really starting to drop all over the place. We haven't had the main bulk of the births yet, but we're starting to see quite a few. And our buffaloes don't have a specific season. They'll breed and give birth all year round. But I've also just seen quite a young one walking in the distance. Either another herd or a trailing portion of this herd. So you can see a few young buffaloes in there. Nothing too young, but I thought I saw a bit earlier a very light-coloured brown calf. See more buffaloes approaching from behind there. What do you see, BK? Just to the right, sorry. Yeah, so this is the trailing edge of that herd, I think. We do have sometimes up to 3 herds of buffalo moving around Pridelands at the same time. And because we've only got the 2 major water holes, sometimes we find all 3 of the herds coming to drink simultaneously. It's amazing. Sometimes have 300 buffaloes all just around the dam. You know, it's so nice just to sit here. As you can see, we're sitting in the shade right now, and it's super comfortable for us. It's one of the best things to do when you're on safari. Sometimes I think everyone always rushes around back and forth to find animals, which is also really cool, to adventure and see new things. But it's sometimes just really nice to sit in the shade somewhere where you know animals are going to be passing by and see what happens. See what animal, and especially here where we are, because it's a corridor. It's a wildlife corridor between Ndlovu Dam and some of the feeding areas along this drainage line. And so there's plenty of animals that come back and forth, from the impalas to the buffalo to the elephants, and the occasional leopard. We didn't hear any leopards last night. They are quite a constant nocturnal experience for us. We always hear them in the distance. I haven't seen one for a couple of days. Fingers crossed for something exciting this afternoon.
Oh. So we're currently busy driving the Timbavati riverbed. It's really started to heat up at the moment, and we had a brief visual of a herd of elephants that went up into the shadier parts on the bank, which is where I think we're going to start to go have a look. Now, ideally, when I drive the riverbed, I always hope for any signs or the possibility of finding a leopard. In this particular area, a specific leopard, which I thought might be patrolling territory in these parts after the rain, maybe trying to remark the areas where the scent have been washed off by the rain from yesterday. This far, we haven't had any luck. There is a massive amount of bird life out here, though, and I was hoping that maybe we get to see some large raptors, ones that might go down and start to perch in trees where there's a little bit more shade. The Timbavati riverbed is always busy, no matter what the weather's like, unless it's really, really coming down after heavy rains.
Welcome back to Ambient Pinder. We have been looking the whole morning frantically for some lion and managed to track them into a thick area where we just couldn't get the vehicle in. So we actually were very lucky in that another ranger went looking for these cheetah and managed to find it. And quite exciting, she's made a kill this morning, as you can see. It's a female Inyala that they've been feeding on. It actually happened within the last hour. What's quite surprising is if you look at their stomachs, they're not breathing too heavily, so she has actually recovered from her chase. Still breathing a little bit, but what they normally do is, straight after they've made the kill, they'll wait for a little while she lets her heart rate slow down and uses that time to look out for predators. And they've fed a little bit since then. You can see the rump of this Inyala actually being fed away, one of the softer parts that they will often start at. You can see the cubs in particular have been feeding. Look at how big their bellies are. So they would have fed, and then also I see the mother has a little bit of blood on her upper lip, so she's also fed a bit as well. And right now it's very hot, so I think they're just having a bit of a rest in that shady area. Lucky for them, it's sort of mid-morning, and in this heat, I don't think they're too worried about other predators moving around a lot. So that'll make them a little bit more relaxed, just based on the sort of temperature and the predictable movement of animals, most likely everything else has already found a patch of shade and is now resting it up for the morning to wait out the heat. You can actually see a little bit of that stomach poking out on this carcass. So they won't, you can see that they've fed around it. Now they're very careful not to puncture the stomach and the intestines because it produces quite a strong smell, with all that undigested material. And that can attract other predators into the like I said, I think they've taken the sort of conditions of the day into account. And she seems quite happy to rest here. Now if we have a look at her two cubs, you can see, so to identify these cheetah, you see the one in the middle. The head size is a bit bigger than the other two, and also there's not really long fluffy hair by the back of her neck. So that is the mother. And if we go over to the right, you can see quite a lot of long hair behind the back of the neck. That smaller cheetah. That is one of the cubs, and that is in fact the female. And then the one on the far, I went over to the right, yeah. And one on the far left there that's lying down flat is her brother. And actually a few times I've been watching, he does seem to be the one that rests a lot more while he lets his mother and his sister sort of take charge of being alert for predators. So that's our family. One young female and one young male. And these two cubs were born in March of this year. So they're about 8 months, starting to get to 9 months old. We're going to sit here and hopefully they're going to start feeding. They will feed periodically on this carcass throughout the day and then abandon it by nightfall. So we're going to stay here and hopefully we get some shots of them maybe having a little bit of meat.
There's nothing like mother's bond. See, there we have an elephant family with lots of calves, and they're slowly walking into the forest, where it's a daily routine that we always watch here as the elephants walk from the escarpment coming through the savannah and into the forest. Now that tells you that they are on a mission, and the mission is to head further into the Mara River and cross to the other side, where they'll go to the Musiara Marsh. So every day, lots of families will gather and come through this forest, splitting up once they come out into the open area and then go to their respective home ranges. So it's a behavior that it's very, very nice to watch, as I've really come to contact with about 18 families. There's some that form bond groups who come together and hang around together and then split up, which is always very nice to see. We've seen lots of interaction between young bulls, older bulls, walking into these families and then disperse, and then just watching that is always amazing. So those young calves that you see in that group, when they grow up and become mature, independent, either male or female, they will still use the same routes to come back to where they're heading right now. As we say, elephants never forget. Those maps will be instilled into their minds. So thanks to the matriarchs who ensure that that routine is followed by generation and generations. Watching those elephants walk past is always amazing. And as they go deeper into the forest, let me take you over to another live location.
Well, from elephants to more elephants. And I have this small herd of about 5. Quite very small, considered to the numbers we've been seeing all around. And the little guy is getting milk. Look at that. Yeah, folded the trunk backwards. And that's the tongue, a very thick tongue. And it's drinking. Looks mom is uncomfortable. She's moved a little bit. I don't know if she's gonna beg again when they want to drink, or definitely she has given her another chance to drink. Yes, that's what happens. The mother, stretches her left foreleg forwards, and the youngster or the elephant folds her trunk backwards and pulls the tongue out to wrap it around the tongue and suck the milk. I don't know how much comes out, but definitely is more than humans. Yeah, and I don't know for what reason they've stood here. This young female here has been trying to sniff us, elongating her trunk to try and pick us. At the same time, she's been trying to dig some soil. You can tell how dirty or muddy her tusks are. This is how they are used. In certain areas, they'll use those tusks to dig for, minerals in the ground, different ones. Of course, the matriarch does take them to where they are because she is the mastermind, or the main head of all the history that she has picked up over the years. Here looks like they've arrived and they've stood quite relaxed. I think they're waiting for the rest of the herd. Could be a bigger herd. Look at how it uses her feet to try and dig for soils. I remember one thing about elephant feet. In front they have 5 toes and at the back 4, and the front leg is oval and the hind leg is round. When walking, they always put the hind leg on top of the front, so you'll never see the complete circle sometimes unless they're turning. That's when they don't put it on top of the other. Very relaxed. This is sometimes how they get that power nap. They just stand in a position and sleep. Looks like the old girl has decided, let's move out of this area. And it's always when she says, let's go, everybody goes. Everybody follows. And Kyla, is it normal for elephants to separate from their babies? No, it's not. And because they are very vocal, they can hear each other from long distances, so it's very rare that they separate from their babies. Cases that you find them being separated, it's either the youngster wandered off, and while trying to call, there is a strong wind and the the call or the voice is not being heard. But it's very rare to come across a separated youngster. Cases where they are separated usually are very few, but if a youngster is stuck in mud and they've been there for very long, it's very few cases where I've seen them leave completely and leave the youngster. But it is not common for youngsters to be separated from the adults. Looks like she has found a mud hole, and it's time to add that much needed layer of mud behind the ears, the belly. This mud we have here, it's called the black cotton soil, is very sticky. I don't know how they feel, but if it's on human skin, it does actually crack and can be very painful to have on your skin. I don't know how elephants find it, but of course their skin is slightly tough and rough than us, so it could be quite soothing for them. They usually use either their feet to make the mud thicker or the right mix before applying it. Oh, the little guy is eating it. Quite interesting. Yeah, he's actually drinking while mom is trying to add a layer. When it rains, that layer usually is washed off, and a good chance to add the layer is now when the rain has subsided slightly. Well, looks like they have stopped a little bit from, she's moved away from the wallow spot. This kind of holes eventually become so big because every time an elephant uses it, it widens it. And so eventually they become a good watering hole for most animals. Right now, it could be the elephant, next could come a rhino, and next day there could be a buffalo. And actually, buffaloes really play a very big role in making these mud holes larger because they stick themselves in completely. They make it so thick, so when they leave with a large amount of soil. So they make these, wallow spots or wallowing holes much bigger. Those guys looks like they're eating the black cotton soil inside that mud hole. Could have some minerals that they're lacking. Definitely they are eating. Yeah, just thrown a little bit to the back. Definitely they are eating the mud. Yeah, I'm gonna stick here for a little bit. Let's take you to another live location.
Welcome back to the side of the Mara from the big elephant family. I'm just driving because I've seen two big elephant bulls. Not quite sure if they're the ones from yesterday, but nice. Don't just get close to them and see who they are, because it's easy to identify elephants from when you're close to them. Just check on the ear markings, just check on the trunk formation, just check on the tusk. So that is what I'll be doing. But I just stop somewhere here for a quick look. I don't know if Big James is a nice spot for you. Just stop here. very lush and actually favorable time for lots of plains game to enjoy this grass because of our short rains. Those are the 2 elephant bulls. Doesn't look like the ones from yesterday because a little bit smaller than the big one that we saw yesterday courting a female.
Welcome back. Just as we hoped. Oh no, come on. How sweet is that? I think it was so funny. He came and flopped down and she was straight away went for the carcass as well. Looks like they seem like they're gonna maybe start feeding. I think their main aim is that carcass is right out in the sun and it's really getting hot, so the flies are coming and landing on top of it. I'll try and drag it into the shade as much as they can, and that way it will just actually stay fresher for a little bit longer. It won't smell as bad as quickly, so the meat won't decompose as quickly. It's quite interesting as she's busy scraping her feet at the back there. Now, I'm not sure what the purpose of her doing that is now. You see, what sometimes happens is when cheetah take out the stomach or the intestines, they'll scrape dirt or she just wants to make herself a comfortable lying spot. There we go. I was wondering before we saw her lie down if maybe she was mimicking some of the mother's behavior she's seen around the carcass, because the mothers will often, scrape dirt once they've removed the organs, drag the organs a little bit away from the carcass and then scrape some stuff over it. But I think with this heat getting as hot as it is now, she's found she wants to move more into the shade, and she just moved some sticks and leaves out of her way, making a nice little comfortable spot to lie down there. You can see that these flies are starting to affect the cheetah as well. You can see those tails flicking and those ears flicking quite a bit. And they're just going to get worse with time. It's actually unbelievable to see how many we can already see there. And they're going to lay their larvae, and then in a few days they'll already have hatched and you'll see a whole lot of maggots. But I think what will happen is they're not going to get that much of a chance, because these 3 cheetah will most likely finish most of this carcass by the end of the day. And once they've removed the intestines and stomach, it will be quite a bit smaller. And then between the 3 of them, they should be able to do a huge amount of damage to this carcass, sort of eat nearly all of the meat. So there's not going to be a lot of spots left for the maggots to actually grow in. It's lovely. If we look at the mother, you can see a bit of dried blood on the bottom of her jaw there and on the side. Can't see any on the cubs, but it could be that they've... Oh no, there's a little bit on that male's bottom left of his jaw. And they will groom each other and clean that up. One of the benefits of all 3 of them being together is that they can help allo groom. Louisa, not quite at the moment. I wasn't here when they made this kill, but there was another ranger that witnessed it. And it seemed what happened is she gave the signal for them to crouch down, stay low, and she ran off and made the kill. I have seen a cheetah cub that was of a very similar age, and in fact, this was the same mother of that cub, and was probably maybe a month or two older. And I did see that cub assist with a hunt. I think it will depend on the circumstance. If they feel like they can assist, they most certainly will, but she does seem to still be indicating to them to rather hang back while she makes the kill. What's exciting to know is that it's the impala lambing season at the moment. So there's a lot of young lambs, and it's going to be very good practice for these two cubs to actually try and hunt those. So I expect very soon the mother's going to start letting them have their own sort of attempts at herds of impala with impala lambs, or she might actually catch and injure an impala lamb and leave it sort of running around, and then they use that as practice. So that's how they're going to develop their hunting skills. They actually very rarely assist the mother until they're completely independent. She sort of does take the charge of most hunts until that stage, and you can see it quite clearly once they've separated from their mother, because they are very clumsy hunters in the very beginning, and you'll see them attempt a lot of, obvious hunts. So there'll be a big open area, and there'll be impala that have definitely seen them, and they'll still try and hunt them. So they've got to sort of learn a lot of those lessons by themselves at failed attempts. I've also seen some cubs of a cheetah. I think we actually saw them separate because they were together, and then we saw them go off on their own, and from that day they never actually joined up. And normally it would be the mother would make a kill like this and she would leave them, but this time it was quite interesting. It seemed that the three younger cheetah actually decided to leave her by themselves, and when they tried to join up with her a few days later, she was quite aggressive towards them, and then they left for good. What was quite interesting to see is straight after they left her, they actually attempted to try and catch a jackal, which is quite, not common amongst cheetah to try and go for jackal. So again, you can see those learning curves that they have to go through. You can see this mother's doing her job really well. She's still poking her head up and having a look around. Like I said, it is thick in this area, and this is a good example because we always talk about cheetahs hunting in those open plains, and it is true that's their preferred habitat, and that's the better spot for them to hunt. But you can see clearly, this is a really thick area, and she had no problem catching this Inyala. In fact, they can change direction really, really quickly because their claws are always, they don't retract their claws. So they've got a lot of traction, and then the bottom of their tail is actually flat, which acts as a rudder. So they swing it from side to side and can change direction really quickly, which suits them in these kind of environments. Now the problem with it is that, look how strong she is. That young cub's instinct, just going straight for the neck as soon as it moved. See, the mother's managed to do what those two young cubs couldn't earlier. But you can see now the danger. Look as she feeds. She keeps looking up and looking around. And that's the problem with them hunting in these areas, is now they don't have a long range of vision. So their amazing eyesight isn't much use in these sort of circumstances. And you can imagine while they're busy feeding, there's chewing noises, there's flies buzzing around, and also their nostrils are now filled with the smell of blood. So all their senses are sort of dulled in these areas, and that's the danger, is that something can maybe come along. Maybe it's been actually even enticed into coming into the area by the alarm calls that it heard. And that's why they try and hunt more in open areas, more for safety after they've made a kill. So now again, look at this young cub's behavior, and it's quite interesting. You can see he's struggling on that neck there. Now he keeps licking it, which is trying to get some of the hair off. They've got very sort of sandpaper-like tongue. she went for the neck first. Obviously, when she first makes a kill, she has to hold down on the neck of the animal to suffocate it. So what would have happened is she would have seen this nyala, she would have chased after it, she would have tripped it from the back, most likely. And once it had gone down on the ground, she would have pinned it and gone straight for the neck, and very quickly that animal would start to suffocate. But she has to hold down for a very, very long period of time because she's got tiny teeth. So she has to make sure that the antelope is actually suffocated. And often it takes as long as 20 minutes for that antelope to fully die.
Don't have them anymore. We'll just give you a view of this dam with its resident hippo and let you listen to the sounds of the bush.
We're still watching our two elephant bulls, and you can see they're just grazing slowly. Yesterday we had a very big bull courting a young female, and I assume that that young female was on her first estrus season. Elephant cows come into season or come into estrus during the rainy season. And you find that the second quarter of the rainy season, that's when most of them will be in this season or in estrus. So you find the bulls will be actually coating them up and around. So there's a high significance of this bull's presence whenever that time comes. Most of these bulls are mature enough to mate with those females, and also they are preferred by most females because of their genes. They walk in sometimes singular, sometimes they can be in pairs, sometimes they can be in big groups, depending on the environment that they're in. We often see about 4 or 5 in big numbers, but then sometimes we see lone bulls by themselves. They're going face to face, and sometimes these bulls come into big clash to fight over dominance. So in a bachelor herd, for them to have a high ranking one and to have dominance, they always have to fight, and the winner has to be the one that gets the mating right and in control of the rest of the bachelors. Usually the bigger, older bulls are the ones that are in charge and in control of the bachelor herds. Seems like there's a little bit of a standoff there, but it's friendly. As you can see, both of them are just resting their trunks on their tusks. Sometimes you see them sparring, pushing off each other. Just a measure of strength. The one to the left looks a little bit slighter, bigger than the one to the right. Size difference matters also, because you cannot fight. An old bull or a small bull cannot challenge a big bull. So that also is a sign of intimidation when they come across each other. But hanging around in bachelors like this, it's also helpful because they get to learn from each other, more so from the older ones.
Yeah, from elephants to the tall ones, giraffes. And I have a very, very pregnant female here. I don't think she's gonna go for another 2 days. She's very due. And she's eating something that's a bit thorny, and you can see how she's trying to place it in the mouth. Look at that. He's trying to place it in the right position so that he can actually grind it. Look at the tongue, how it pulls it inside. That looks like a Solanum incarnum, Sodom apple. It's got tiny little spikes, but giraffes love it. Yeah, still trying to position it properly so it can get rid of those little spikes and also cut off the tip. I think it's very thick, it cannot chew it. Is it gonna drop it or is it gonna maneuver it and place it properly in the mouth?
You will not believe what we have just witnessed here. 2 southern ground hornbills, I imagine the same ones that we're seeing regularly, who have just torn apart a scrub hare and swallowed it. But I don't think the scrub hare was alive. I think they found it on the ground, and between the two of them, they've just finished what used to be a scrub hare. Can you believe it? Now, we always talk about their diet and what they eat. Maybe they did kill it, but I don't think so. When we approached, they seemed to just find it and take it off the ground, which is really, really incredible stuff. I mean, we see them eat lizards, snakes, frogs, insects, but a scrub hare. Wow. And it was a large part of the scrub hare. I don't quite know the story behind it, but scrub hares are large mammals for their sort of category. They're not small. They're not the size of a bushveld gerbil. They are large, and here you go. The southern ground hornbills are eating it. What a fantastic end to an incredible drive. Sitting watching Tandy assess her scenario and seeing if she could catch that steenbok, but unfortunately she wasn't lucky. And here we go. Hornbills trying to eat a scrub here. So it came to that time of day, everyone. So thank you for jumping on board, all your comments and questions, and please do join us this afternoon. Goodbye for now.